Before we continue with the video, if you like what I'm doing here on this channel, please consider subscribing. It helps the channel a lot. Anyway, let's get back to the video. Welcome back to my Create an RPG series. In this episode we will be doing our first use case, showing how you can make use of the system to create something specific. In this episode we will be looking at the ability to have a weapon be leveling up instead of the character or in addition to the character. So like something that having a weapon that you use and then it keeps getting stronger as you get more proficient with it, for example. So we will be having a leveling system for our weapon in this case. To start off with, related to this, we will be also fixing some minor bugs that hopefully, if you follow this series, shouldn't have been a problem for you if you have run into them, and you should have, from all the descriptions of how the systems work and explaining everything like that, you should probably have a pretty good understanding of both how to solve it and how to find these problems. But in this episode we will be going through some of these related to combat as well. So the first one is that we have currently on this character a fireball, and on this character's fireball, if you open up the fireball blueprint, we can see that we have our stats over here on the left hand side, and multiplier here represents our strength with our fireball. So currently it's at 50. If we set it to 100 we should be able to, or 1000, whatever, such a high number that we can one-shot the AI. So we're going to be demonstrating what is going wrong here. So we're shooting the fireball. Okay, that was a poor demonstration. Let's try. Well, actually, it was an okay demonstration because we still saw it. The character is dead, and we have our debug information here for our XP. Let's see if we can move the mouse here. So here we can say our XP and our level is currently the same. It's like XP 0 and level 1. So we're not getting awarded the XP for the kill. To go to our BPC for combat, this is where it's of course handled. We have a binding on take damage, and when damage is taken here we go and change our attributes and we send them in over here. However, this is wrong. We're sending in the origin here to be whatever this pawn reference is and its controller. The one that is actually changing the attribute in this case is of course going to be the one who's causing the damage. So what we want to do, and just to demonstrate this very vividly, if we drag instigated, which is going to be the controller, drag it to the controller, and damage causer, which is going to be the actor causing the damage, like so, and hook that up as our origin information instead to the change of attributes, we can now see that if we go back and do a fireball again, that we are the ones who are currently getting properly awarded the XP for the kill here. Next up, we have a similar situation with our weapon, which is if we go to the part where we actually deal damage in this case. So it's over here by attempt damage. We're sending damage to whoever we're hitting, but we're currently not setting in an event instigator or an event causer. So if we go to, actually we're sending in damage 10 here, we don't have a calculation currently. So let's send in 100 as value here instead, meaning that we will do 100 damage on melee hit, which means we one shot, and this is easily displayed then. So here he runs, we'll do an attack, we killed him, and you can see that we don't get any experience for it. And of course the reason for this is we're not sending stuff in here. So we have a pawn reference, we get that. So the pawn reference is going to be the damage causer, the actor that's causing the damage. And if we type in get controller on this one, we can get the controller for the specific pawn, and that's going to be the event instigator. If we compile and save now, and we go and hit our AI again, you can see that we get awarded XP for the kill. So that's the first part about the minor issues about the last details of sending information. So let's actually get into the part where we can build upon this to create a weapon that levels up. The idea here is that we have already created a component for XP, which if we open up is fairly generic. We have some information here where we're adding a listener for death, which is not super relevant. But essentially we could be using this on our weapon. So if we open up our weapons and go to our BP weapon, which is our base, we could essentially just add an XP component here, like so. And now in theory our weapon should be able to have experience. The first problem should probably arise as we press play and press escape. You can see that we get an access none trying to read the call function, blah blah blah. And this is most likely going to be actually, let's see that message again. Add tag listener is complaining. Yeah, yes, exactly. So the XP component is trying to find the owner to get the component for gameplay tag, because it wants to keep track of if you're dead or not, or if you have died. Since this is not valid for the weapon will never die. This will be an invalid reference because it will never have the component. So what we will do is we will add a check, which is good to have here regardless, because we want to make sure that we are actually getting a component that exists. So having a valid branch for this one will make sure that we will only be doing this or actually be trying to listen to that event if we are able to. So if I press escape now, you can see we don't get an issue here because we don't set up this tag listener and listen to the dead state. And that's fine for our weapon because it doesn't need to listen to the dead state because it's not going to be dying and sending any information. That's handled by the XP of the pawn, or the XP component of the pawn. But this still gives us the ability to do things like award XP and have this specific actor level up here. So we can still do the level ups for this actor and keep track of everything like that because it has a current level and a max level. Actually, I see I have a spelling here, spelling issue, typo, like so. So that's the general idea of this. So in this case, when we have a BP component over here and we get to the point where actually, let's do this. We have our, no, there's where I want to be. So we have our award XP here. If we just press, set a breakpoint there and go over here and kill the AI for a bit. Like so. So what happens here is our third person character is getting awarded XP by the amount of 100, which is what the AI is worth when we killed it. So this is being added to our XP component. Now, when you want to do something like a leveling weapon, you can have it level in a lot of different ways. So the first part is you need to determine how do you want that weapon to level. Do you want it to level based on just basic usage, like swinging the sword at all? Then you want to keep track of each swing and then award experience to the weapon's XP component every time that happens. If you, for instance, have it so that every time you do damage to something you want to give it XP, then you would be hooking it up to this event here where, no, not attack weapon change, sorry, the attempting of damage, because this is where we determine that we're doing damage to a new character. So over here, after this point, is where we actually want to say, well, the weapon is supposed to level up. Or you might want to have it as it is working for our current leveling system, which is that when something dies, you get XP for it. In that case, you want to hook up to a situation where you normally get experience points. So what are some ways to do this? Well, if we look at how this works, when we have a death state happen to a character, it will find the XP component of whoever killed it and award it directly, which means that it's going to go to our pawn's BPC experience component, which means that it comes over here and it adds this experience, try to level up, and it calls the XP changed event here, for example. Now, a way for us to be as an outsider and see that this is happening, we could actually hook up to this call XP changed, for example. So we could say that if we wanted to have this same experience point that we get for our character for the kill to be the same experience that our weapon gets to level up with, then we could actually hook up this. Currently we're not sending that information in this structure. So the first thing we could do then is we could go and actually extend the structure a bit. So we can add another variable where we say experience added or something like that. We add a float value for that, save, close it down, go back to our BPC, and now you see we have experience added here. So we can send the experience added into the structure, and that's now being sent in the XP context for the call XP changed. So this means that our weapon is now able to reach this information if we wanted to, because our weapon here is going to be in our BPC component, it will be an equipped weapon variable that we have currently equipped as our character. And if our character, if we go over here to where we actually spawn in the actor, for example, in this case, how it's done here is that when we equip a weapon, we spawn an actor of a class, and we send in who is going to be the owner and the instigator. And in here we actually send in the owner for this BPC component, which means that in weapon we can get owner here, and let's get rid of the tick and the overlap, and this will be the same pawn as having the component for the combat, which means that when we're going here and we're saying we may want to get from this one XP component, get component by class, we can then say we want to try and get its BPC XP component. And and then we need to, let's have a valid also, valid, and hook it up. And then we can print something just to show if that is working or not. So now we can say weapon found player XP components. Very long text. Should be easy to identify if it's working or not because the text will be long. So you can see here that the weapon found the XP component, or it claims at least to have done that. What we can do to check that, for example, would be we can use this to award XP and set it to 100. So if it is valid, we should be able to see it on the screen that it has been awarded experience points. So we can see that the event for awarding XP is being run here, which we saw, and it's being run 2 times because we have the AI also getting awarded XP now because it also holds a weapon, and you can see that we get the experience points right here. So it is able to reach into that experience point component, which means that if we're able to do that, we can also bind on the event which was called XP changed. So if we remove this and hook this up, then we now have the ability to have an event here which reacts if we get experience points. So experience gained, like so, and we have a structure here that contains the information that we're interested in, which is the new experience added here. So if we print out, for example, we can print out when we're getting experience points now. And let's actually remove the breakpoint for award XP. And let's go and chop him up with a sword here now. So there we go. And now we, if we press, what is that called? Apostrophe? I'm not entirely sure. But you have a key next to your one key, which you can press a couple of times to get the log up, and you can see that we're printed out 100. So the weapon itself here was able to run this part. Now, what we can do here then is essentially very simple. We can just use our own Blueprint component for XP and award ourselves with experience points of the amount that we are getting from the input of the structure. and this should give us the ability to have experience here. Now, to be able to see that this happens, we need to do a few things. So if we go to our combat blueprint component, blueprint component, we have an equipped weapon, so we need to expose that to begin with so that we can see it in runtime. And then with that there, we should also have we need to have experience. Current XP should be okay. Let's try this and see if this works. So we go here, we go to our character over there. It has a blueprint sword 1 on it. Blueprint sword 1 has BPC experience points and it currently has an experience value which is not very relevant, but we have a current experience here as well. So if we go now and chop down our AI, hopefully, like so, you can see that it was awarded 100 XP there. So we are now actually able to give our weapon experience. So the next part would be to have something like an ability to maybe get our weapon to be stronger as it's leveling up. So we could create, for example, a function. So let's create a function and get weapon damage, which will just be returning a value of a float, which will be our weapon damage. We can also click in to have it pure so that we don't have to have an execution pin to get this information. And what we can do is, from this we can make a calculation of our damage based on our level. So we might want to have something like a level curve here, so level damage curve for our weapon, which we make to be of a float. I'm drawing blanks. Float curve. Thank you. Like so. And here we could use a curve. So let's see what kind of curves we have. Let's say that this is the curve we want to go for. So level 1, it's doing, actually that's not maybe the best of curves. Do we have one for our fireball? We do. This one is a little bit better. So let's just reuse that one for this purpose. So we'll take this and go in and click it in here as our leveling curve. And it will at level 1, it seems, do 0.1, and at level 5 it will do 1. So it will do 10 to 100% of the damage depending on the level. So from this we can get our BPC component, we can get our leveling curve, and we can from this get our current level. And from the leveling curve we can get value, float value at a certain time, which is going to be our level, which in this case is an integer, but we can just convert it to a float. And this should be giving us the multiplier of our curve, essentially. Then we can have another value that represents our damage. So let's say that we have a damage value here, and we'll make it of the type float, and we'll have it as a base damage of, let's say, let's say 100 for, actually, what I'm thinking here is I want to have something that's easily debuggable, so I want to one-shot something, but I still want to be able to show you how much damage it does. So we'll just do this. We'll do 1000 damage to be our normal, just so I can one-shot something even at level 1. We'll get this, multiply this. This means we'll get the 10% from here at level 1 times 1000, which should give us 100 damage. And then when we level up, it should be getting higher and higher. So we'll just expose this damage value. Actually, no, the damage value is not what we want to see. We want to see this. We go to our combat blueprint component where we have the equipped weapon and where we're doing damage. That's currently set to 100. And instead of having it hard-coded now, we can just essentially say equipped weapon get damage. What did I call it? Get weapon damage, it should be. Get weapon damage. And since we made it a pure function, we can just hook it up like so. Okay, let's try that again, like so. Okay, and let's have a... Let's do the following. Let's do it like this. Let's put a... We'll do it this way. We are going to be dealing damage at some point, which is when this event happens. So let's just hook up a breakpoint here to see what it looks like. So if we go in here and we run up to this character, we can attack. We can see a damage taken event has been happening, and we can see that the damage taken being sent in here is 100, which is what we're expecting, because that's what we programmed it to, 1000 times 0.1. So it's dying and everything is fine. Actually, now we're getting multiple hits here because we don't actually stop listening to the damage there, which is something we should do, of course. So now we need another AI just to be able to have one to kill off and then another one to kill off afterwards to see is the damage increasing with our level of our weapon, essentially. So we'll do this. We'll run over here. We'll find this character over here. We'll hit him. The hit does 100 damage. We resume. We hit him again. Actually, now we might actually be able to see current value is still 100. Okay, so we have a bug. Let's see here with our weapon. And we want to have it weapon damage, and we want to have it at experience, I believe, over here. We could actually do it this way. We could set... Did we not check our current level? Let's expose our current level instead. And let's remove the breakpoint over here so we can do this a little bit faster. So we'll go like so. And we'll resume here and resume here. We're doing more stuff. There we go. Okay, let's go back to our corner here and see what is this looking like. So we have our character, we have its sword, we have its blueprint component. It has been given 100 XP, but it is currently at level 1. Right, our levels maybe aren't... Okay, we need to fix this also. Set value as object. Okay, this is related. Okay, never mind. This is the AI character. We will be skipping this to focus on the weapon for now. It has to do with our different AIs and things like that. We want to check our level here. And let's see here. How much did we need for level 1? Level 2... No, level 2 is over there. 150. We need to have 200 XP to level up. So we need to change the XP to level up to be 200 here, in this case, from any character, so that both we and the weapon essentially level up now. Okay, now I'm having the AIs fighting each other. That's not entirely what I wanted. Since the AI is very simple and don't take into consideration other AI and such things, it will just attack anything. So that's not exactly what we wanted, but yeah. Resuming, we're awarding XP, and there we go. Now we should be able to check. We have reached level 2. Let's see if our weapon has. Our weapon has reached level 2 as well now. We should actually be able to hit this character over here. No, we can't. Get weapon damage, here we go. So we're stepping over and we're getting a calculation here that says that we're doing now 300 damage, which is going to correspond to, I believe, this 0.3. So now we're doing 300 damage instead with our weapon, because it has now leveled up, which we can also see if we resume, go to our sword over here, no, this sword, this XP, And you can see that it's level 2 here currently. So that is essentially one way you could, for example, do it. You could hook on to the existing logic of the death of a character when award XP is being done there. You could also, like I said earlier, hook on to situations like if you wanted to have every time damage is being dealt out, then you have the damage event over here that you could add logic to, or you could have it when you're doing your swings at all. It depends a little bit about how you want your weapons to level up. But hopefully with this you have gotten a sense of how you could make use of these things. Like for example, this XP component, we didn't build it for our weapons to be leveling up, but you can if you wanted to, and if you make them modular enough, then they could easily be used for other things than what you first intentionally intend to have them as well. Like for example in this case, the leveling up weapons. Yeah. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you liked the video, leave a like. If you did not like it, leave a dislike. Leave any suggestions or comments you have down below. Subscribe and share this video if you want to see more like it in the future. That is all for now. Keep on learning. Take care.